Hello everyone and welcome to Werven's World. Today I would like to give you 5 tips for new players on ADOM, Ancient Domains of Mystery. Now ADOM is a very interesting roguelike, but it's also pretty hard to figure out what to do and how to do it in this game. I was learning this game a while ago and the Reddit community was so nice to really help me out with that, so I thought I would pass on the favor and basically make a compilation of 5 tips that really helped me get started with the game. So I hope you will find them useful and let's get started. Tip number 1 is about door traps. So door traps can be very dangerous. They can have traps such as falling boulders, falling doors, explosions and flashes. And some of these will happen only in the space right in front of the door. So if you kick in the door from a diagonal direction, you will not have any problems with rocks falling on your face. And as you can see here, rocks can be very dangerous, so it's a very good thing to be able to avoid these. So make sure whenever you have to kick in a door to always do it diagonally. Tip number 2 is about tactics. So skill leveling works a little bit similar as in games as for example Elder Scrolls series, where the more you use a skill the better you get at it. So if you hit people on the face a lot with a sword, your sword skill will go up. However, tactics will interfere with this a bit. So tactics are very important to use. You can change them with F1 to F7 or capital T and then plus and minus. You can change them from up to coward to up to berserk. And that means that at the cost of dodge value, you gain more to hit or damage, or the other way around. However, there is something else that you should know about tactics. For example, if you are at 1/3 of health, so you're almost dead, and then you put it on coward, then you actually get more movement speed, so it's easier to flee. However, if you are on very defensive or on coward, you actually can't increase your attack skill. So if you're hitting people while being on very defensive or coward, you can't increase, for example, your sword skill. The other way around also works. So if you are on berserk, you cannot increase your shield skill. So even if you have equipped a shield and you're using your shield to block damage, then still your shield won't go up if you're on berserk. So that's very good to know. So if you want to train up your skills, you shouldn't really use coward, very defensive or berserk, unless in situations where you really need them. Tip number 3 is about first aid. So first aid here works very differently from many other games. In many other games it counts as a healing skill, and here while it also heals you, it really is just first aid. You need to use it directly after getting damage within the first 3 turns. So basically, if you get damage and then immediately use first aid, you can regain some of those hit points. But if you do it after 3 turns, you can't use it anymore for that. So this makes it especially useful for burst damage, such as falling rocks from traps, but it also really works well against poison, because poison only happens once every many turns, and then once you are damaged, you can just use first aid in order to try and heal the damage you got from the poison, and so on. So first aid, use it immediately after getting damaged. Tip number 4 is about your carrying capacity. If you're over carrying capacity, you become overburdened, and this has both positive as well as negative effects. The positive effect of this is that you are getting stronger slowly. You are carrying a lot of stuff around and thus you train your muscles. And sometimes you might see a message that says something like your muscles feel stronger, and that increased your strength and thus also, for example, your carrying capacity. However, being burdened also decreases some stats. For example, your dexterity goes down while you're being overburdened, and you also become slower. And you also use more food. And using food is of course a bit annoying because, well, rations are very heavy. And if you are starving, then you get a lot of minuses to your stats while you're starving. So you really don't want to be in that position. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Do you want to train your strength while eating a lot of rations and carrying extra rations with you? Or do you want to stay at a normal level while not increasing your strength, but then at least you don't have to worry about food so much? And tip number 5 is, even if you like to play with tiles, don't be afraid to use ASCII once in a while. You can access ASCII by pressing F10, and this is especially useful for finding out whether you forgot to pick up some items, for example. Here I'm playing an archer and I'm in a field, and it's very hard to see where the arrows are. You really need to strain your eyes in order to find out where exactly they are. However, as you can see, if you switch to ASCII, it's immediately clear where they are and you can very quickly pick them up. So don't be afraid to use it once in a while, even if you just use tiles most of the time. Alright, so those were the 5 tips of ADOM. I hope you found them useful and see you next time.